Stay watching at the end of this video for news of other programs in the Great Trains series.
Forming natural barriers between the counties of York and Lancaster are inhospitable tracts of moorland. Between the moors and the open lowlands lie fertile valleys which intrude into the wastes like fingers on the hand of civilization. Stretching in a southwesterly direction from the industrial town of Keighley in West Yorkshire, the Worth Valley forms a cleavage into the Pennine chain following the River Worth. Valleys such as this were to provide the natural course for the iron rails that accompanied the Industrial Revolution. We shall probably never know who it was that first discovered the power of steam, but by the end of the 18th century, the steam engine had been mobilized. Development on the iron horse, as it came to be known, rapidly went from strength to strength, and by the middle of the 19th century, it had snorted its way across the length and breadth of the country, bringing prosperity to the places it served. The somewhat tranquil atmosphere of the Worth Valley was first shattered by the bark of a steam locomotive on the 1st of November 1866. And by the 13th of April 1887, the line through to Oxenhope was finally opened. In 1955, the Railway Modernisation Plan signed the death warrant of the steam locomotive, and the wholesale slaughter began. After 95 years of faithful service, the Worth Valley Railway was silent. Determined to save the line from the demolition men, a group of local people formed a preservation society. Almost 102 years after the first opening ceremony, the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway triumphantly returned to regular steam service. At 2:35 p.m. on the 29th of June 1968, the grand reopening special train steamed out of Keighley. From these modest beginnings 20 years ago, the service, run entirely by volunteers, now attracts more than 150,000 passengers per year, and many more visitors who just come to watch the steam trains thunder by. The Worth Valley Railway starts its life in the station at the northeast corner of Keighley town centre, from a platform adjacent to the main Leeds to Carlisle line of British Rail. From the station, the line winds its way steeply in a southwesterly direction on its journey towards Oxenhope. Shortly after 7 in the morning, a Ginty number 47279 sits smouldering outside the locomotive sheds at Haworth. The fireman returns from his breakfast to add more fuel to the fire already burning within the black locomotive's heart. Sparks fly as more wood and coal is shoveled between the firebox doors. Soon a steady column of smoke is spiralling skywards from the chimney stack. Life is once again being breathed into a once derelict locomotive. Whilst the steam pressure is slowly building deep within the Ginty's boiler, diesel-electric 060 number D0226 Vulcan, built by the Vulcan Foundry in Newton-le-Willows in 1956, is being prepared for its turn of duty. The diesel pressure is manually pumped. The starting button pushed, and she starts first time. Departing the yard, a 500 horsepower motor rumbles its way to Keighley, where she'll assist in shunting manoeuvres later in the day. A jet of steam from the safety valve signals the Ginty has achieved running pressure, and with a blast from her whistle, she sets off for Oxenhope to collect the first train of the day. This beautifully restored locomotive is a direct descendant of a class that once worked on the Worth Valley branch for many years. Built at the Vulcan Foundry, number 47279 is an 060 tank of 1924 vintage, and is one of 422 originally constructed for the London, Midland and Scottish Railways, where they worked as standard shunting engines. Number 47279 was one of a handful of survivors remaining in the Barry scrapyard in 1979, and a small group of Worth Valley members formed a 3F fund to save it. At Oxenhope, the Ginty rolls through the pointwork and into the sidings to be coupled to two brake vans requiring shunting.
We've got two brakes on, number 40 and number 10. We've got to pull both of them off, set number 10 back onto the center, and bring number 40 back and park it.
The guard issues instructions to the driver, and amidst clouds of steam, the day's work has begun. With the correct brake van in position, the Ginty can finally be coupled to the front of the train. Today is a rather special day for this small locomotive, for this is the first public train to be hauled by the Ginty since its renovation. The guard gives the signal to test the vacuum brakes. The all-clear signal is given to the driver, and the train sets off on its first run to Keighley. The Worth Valley side of Keighley Station, virtually disused for many years, has been greatly improved since the reopening of the branch. Fresh paintwork, refreshment facilities, electric lighting, plus hanging baskets in summer have all contributed towards the renovation of what was little more than a derelict hulk in 1968. The Worth Valley Railway has access to both platforms 3 and 4, but due to work in progress on a new bridge, a cumbersome shunting process is required to get the locomotive from one end of the train to the other for its return journey. A Great Western Railway's pannier tank is on hand this morning to assist the Genty with this manoeuvre by drawing the coaches forward beneath the station building and onto British Rail territory.
Approaching platform 4 is the 10.05 to Oxenhoe, calling at Oakworth, Haworth and Oxenhoe. This train will also call at Ingro West and Damend by request to the guard. Train now approaching platform 4 is the 10.05 to Oxenhoe.
The Genty, once again united with its train, steams into the station to collect its first group of passengers. Climbing the sharp incline away from its northern terminus, the line crosses the River Worth and follows its eastern bank through the industrial back streets of the town towards Ingro. Over the first mile, the Great Northern Railway used the same route for its Keighley to Bradford and Halifax branches. Nothing now remains of these, apart from some earthworks and an old engine shed above the Worth Valley line at Ingro. The site of the old junction with the Great Northern Railway is now completely hidden by a long thicket to the east of the line, just beyond the top of the Keighley incline. The first stop out of Keighley is Ingro West. The newly erected station building was originally sited at Fowlridge near Colne in Lancashire, and was dismantled and transported to Ingro, where it was rebuilt and restored to its original splendour. At Ingro Station, the Worth Valley line dives into a short, dark tunnel that separates the open valley mouth from its narrow, steep-sided upper reaches. Once through the tunnel, the line starts to climb steeply, twisting snake fashion to find what path it can alongside the River Worth. Damems, the smallest station on the line, and possibly in the country, is passed about a mile beyond Ingrove. A short platform capable of taking one coach only, a station house, level crossing, and Damems is gone. Beyond the station lies one of the major constructional works of the present Worth Valley Company. When traffic began to build beyond the capabilities of a single line, a passing loop was constructed to enable two opposing trains to operate the line simultaneously. Train movements through the loop are controlled from a signal box opened in 1973. This box was originally in use at Frizinghall on the Bradford-Foster Square to Shipley line. After becoming redundant, it was transported lock, stock and barrel by road to Oakworth, where it was loaded onto a rail wagon for the last lap of its journey to Damems. As the train passes, tokens are exchanged between signalman and driver. Continuing its climb beyond the loop, the line enters a narrow cutting and emerges round a bend that leads on to Oakworth. The station building at Oakworth, providing a typical example of a West Yorkshire country halt, has retained its original condition, when out of necessity, others on the line have been modernised. Gas lamps, Edwardian posters, and a neat garden plot contribute much towards the old world atmosphere that's completed by the internal structure, itself in an unaltered condition. The effort put into the maintenance of Oakworth Station was rewarded in 1979, when it won first prize in the Best Preserved Station competition. A plaque on the waiting room wall commemorates this event. Trains pass around a heavily wooded curve. over a short viaduct and into Mytholm's tunnel. Out of the tunnel, the line curves round a hillside and into Haworth, where the station is the headquarters of the present Worth Valley Railway Company. The buildings have been completely refurbished. The booking hall and waiting rooms have been combined to form one large-scale area. Haworth, the old village on a hill, remains today very much as it has done for over a century. Its fame is due primarily to one family. It was here in 1820 that the Reverend Patrick Bronte came as curate in charge at the Church of St. Michael and All Angels. It was in these surroundings that the three Bronte sisters, Charlotte, Emily and Anne, found many of the inspirations which brought them fame. Their own poignant lives, relived so vividly against such a remorseless background, carried their names and that of Haworth far beyond the shores of England. A museum to the Bronte sisters is today in a parsonage opposite the church at the top of the village. Immediately beyond the station at Haworth lies the goods yard, where most of the locomotive maintenance and repair work is undertaken. Still climbing, the line now passes into more open country for the last mile up to Oxenhope. Over this section, the valley, still deep and severe, curves much more gently, giving the line an almost straight path. one last curve, and the line runs into Oxenhope Station at the northern end of the village. Oxenhope Goods Yard, derelict and overgrown in 1968, now contains a large covered museum where locomotives and coaches are on public display when the line is in operation. Other accommodation provides space for the overhaul and repair of coaching stock. The present Worth Valley Railway has not attempted to imitate any of the former owners in their choice of either locomotives or coaches. This has been done on some other privately operated lines, and whilst maintaining a definite period look, it's a policy which can limit the scope of activity. It's felt at Haworth that a steam train is in itself a period piece, without being restrictive as to its actual origin. The locomotive fleet, which totals over 30, originates from as far apart as Glasgow, Newcastle, Leeds, Bristol, and even Pennsylvania, with building dates ranging between 1874 and 1961. Thanks mainly to many hours of hard work on the parts of their owners, a large majority of the locomotives preserved on the line are today in working order. Due to the severe nature of the branch, the choice of locomotives for passenger train working is ruled by their age and size, larger modern types being dominant. Not forgotten, as with some other lines, are the industrial types. Locomotives which, because they spent their working lives in obscure sidings, didn't catch the attention of most enthusiasts until after British Rail had displaced their more eye-catching fleets. During the early spring, the railway holds a variety of enthusiasts' weekends, which feature the running of many different types of steam locomotive. At 9:26 on a Saturday, the early morning travellers are gathering on Haworth platform to greet the arrival of the oldest locomotive on the railway, Bellerophon. Built in 1874 at the Haydock Foundry, it's an 060 well tank locomotive and is being assisted on the early train by Southern Railway's USA 060 side tank number 72. At the terminus station at Keighley, number 72 is uncoupled from Bellerophon for the shunting manoeuvre. The fireman stokes the firebox to maintain the steam pressure, before reversing away from the main body of the train. Meanwhile, Bellerophon has her nameplate polished for the many photographers before pulling the train into the sidings for shunting. A few minutes later, the train reappears from the sidings with number 72 at the head and diesel shunter D0226 Vulcan. Bellerophon remaining in the sidings to take a later train.
The Oxenhoe train to platform 4 and we'll call it Oakwood, Howard and Oxenhoe. This train will also call it Keighley West and Dalens by request of the guard. Platform 4, the Oxenhoe train.
At 10:05 precisely, the former train pulls out of Keighley station, bound for Oxenhoe. its arrival at Oxenhope, a very thirsty number 72 takes on water for the return journey. At Oakworth Station, the Ginty number 47279 slumbers in the sidings, awaiting the arrival of Bellerophon hauling the 11:15 Keighley to Oxenhope train. Bellerophon's arrival stirs the Ginty into life, and she rolls out of the sidings to join the front of the train. Together, they steam majestically into the station. It's lunchtime in Haworth sidings. Number 7752, a Great Western pannier tank locomotive, rolls out of the yard to join Bellerophon on her return journey on the Oxenhope to Keighley run. Having left Bellerophon at Oakworth to operate the afternoon shuttle service to Oxenhope, the Great Western Railway's pannier tank has collected a new rake of coaches and arrives at Ingrow West at the head of the 14:35 Keighley to Oxenhope train. Ahead of the pannier tank, the weather at Oakworth has taken a turn for the worse, as number 72 is inspected before taking over the shuttle service from Bellerophon. The pannier tank arrives from Damems amidst a spring shower. At 4 minutes to 4, number 72 rumbles out of the sidings with the afternoon tea special to Oxenhope. Still raining as the last train of the day is arriving in Oxenhope, with the GWR pannier tank at the head. But it's its departure to Haworth which is causing all the interest. The locomotives almost outnumber the coaches, as diesel D0226 Vulcan, accompanied by an ex-British Rail Class 25 diesel locomotive, join the front of the train. This could only happen during an enthusiasts' weekend. Sunday morning dawned with a slight rain shower and little hint of the weather to come. The Great Western pannier tank was in action again, thundering up the valley out of Keighley. At Oakworth, number 31, Hamburg, an ex-Manchester Ship Canal's 060 side tank, has been waiting patiently in the sidings to join the front of the 11:15 Keighley to Oxenhope train. After a short manoeuvre, the two locomotives are united and present a spectacular sight, powering their way up the incline into the station. In the yard at Haworth, one of the largest locomotives owned by the railway has been getting steam up all morning and rolls out into the loop to take up the first task of the day. Manoeuvring through the points, this World War II veteran, USA S160, Class 280, number 5820, dwarfs the pannier tank it's about to join in a double-headed run to Keighley. The sudden change in weather conditions is well known in these Yorkshire valleys, and by lunchtime at Haworth, the Ginty is arriving in a snowstorm. As conditions deteriorated, the station master at Damems has to light the gas lamps. Returning to his signal box, the phone indicates the imminent arrival of number 5820 from Keighley.
Damems. Thank you.
gates are open and the signal's changed. And number 5820, affectionately known as Big Jim, thunders through the tiny station. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the gas lamps had been lit at Haworth Station, and the snow continued to fall as the Ginty arrived with the afternoon tea special from Oakworth, providing a picturesque finale to a marvellous weekend on the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. But is this the end of the story?
A lot of our visitors would assume that we've actually completed this line now and there's nothing more to do. In fact, that's very far from the truth. Certainly we can't extend in either direction because we have a junction with British Rail at Keighley and we've got 1,200 feet of moorland in that direction beyond Oxenholme. But I think we have to develop the line in all sorts of ways. After all, the railway was built to carry people and goods along the valley, so let it do the very work for which it was intended.
Stylus Video presents The Great Trains. Individual videos of famous railways and legendary locomotives, including this impressive collection of steam, which can be found in the heart of West Yorkshire on the Keighley and Worth Railway. Further north, we join the famous Settle and Carlisle Railway, considered to be the most scenic and spectacular main line in Britain. Come along for the ride. Down in North Wales, we visit the Festiniog Railway as it celebrates 125 years of steam. From the other side of the world comes the award-winning film A Steam Train Passes. This unique Australian documentary is superbly photographed and is simply a must for every enthusiast's video collection. Follow the remarkable journey of the Glacier Express as it snakes its way across Switzerland through picturesque villages and mountain peaks rising to the breathless height of 11,000 feet above sea level. And here comes the 3801. This great Australian locomotive is certainly one of the finest examples from the golden age of steam. The Mallard, the world's fastest steam locomotive. 50 years ago, it reached a speed of 126 miles per hour. Finally, the world-famous Flying Scotsman, photographed in England, Australia, and the USA. The world of the great trains from Stylus Video. Available now from your nearest video station.